There is a clock somewhere in your home, or your office, or somewhere on your body right now, and it is running, and you are not thinking about it. You haven't thought about it in hours, maybe days. It is doing the one thing it was built to do, marking the passage of time, and it is completely, utterly invisible to you. Now, imagine it stops. You would notice. Not because an alarm sounds, not because the room changes. The light is the same. The temperature is the same. The silence is the same. And yet something in you, some ancient, wordless part of the brain that existed long before clocks, long before language, long before the concept of time had a name, would feel the absence, would feel that something had gone wrong, would feel, in the most literal sense of the word, that something had died. Why does stillness announce itself so loudly? Why does the thing that has stopped doing nothing, measuring an abstraction, spinning hands through empty air, feel more present the moment it ceases than it ever did while it was running? The answer is not about clocks. It was never about clocks. Let's start with what science calls chronostasis. It's a word that sounds like it was coined specifically to make the phenomenon seem less strange than it is. It means, approximately, time standing still, and it describes something you have almost certainly experienced without ever having a name for. You move your eyes to glance at a clock. In the first fraction of a second after your eyes land on the second hand, it seems not to slow down, but to stop entirely, to hang, to wait, as if you have caught the universe mid-thought. What is actually happening is this. Your eyes, when they move, produce something called a saccade, a rapid jump from one point of focus to another. During a saccade, your brain receives almost no useful visual information. The world blurs, the signal degrades, and rather than show you a smeared and unusable feed, your brain does something remarkable and quietly terrifying. It deletes the gap. It reaches forward in time, takes the first clear image it receives after the movement, and pastes it backward over the missing milliseconds. You never see the blur. You see only the still image on the other side of it, held in place, as though it had always been there, as though the clock had been waiting for you. The brain, in other words, is not a camera. It is an editor. And like all editors, it makes choices about what you are allowed to see. But chronostasis is only the surface of this. It explains why a running clock looks frozen for a moment when you first glance at it. It does not explain why a genuinely stopped clock, one you have not looked at, one sitting quietly in a room you left hours ago, still manages to announce its failure in a way that a running clock never announces its success. For that, you have to go deeper. You have to go to the part of the brain that does not perceive the world so much as it predicts the world. There is a school of thought in neuroscience, increasingly the dominant one, that suggests the brain's primary activity is not receiving information, but generating it. The senses, in this model, are not inputs. They are correction signals. The brain is constantly producing a model of what the world should look like, what it should sound like, what it should feel like, and the actual data streaming in from your eyes and ears. And skin is used not to build that model from scratch, but to adjust it when it drifts too far from reality. You do not see the world. You see your brain's best guess about the world, lightly edited by evidence. And what does any reliable system do when it is working correctly? Nothing. Nothing that you notice. A prediction that is confirmed generates no signal. A thermostat that is holding the right temperature does not announce itself. A heart beating at the right rate does not demand attention. A clock, ticking, ticking, ticking in perfect alignment with your brain's continuous model of a universe in motion. It vanishes. It becomes part of the wallpaper of existence. A stopped clock, though. A stopped clock violates the prediction. It sends a correction signal. It says, your model is wrong. Something has changed. And the brain, which would rather be wrong about a predator and survive than be right about silence and die, turns its full attention toward the anomaly. Here is where it gets strange, because this is not a quirk of modern neuroscience, or a side effect of living in a world full of clocks. This is ancient. This is baked into the architecture of every nervous system complex enough to model the future, which is to say, it is baked into you and into everyone who has ever lived, and into every culture that has ever built a word for time. Across every civilization, from the earliest recorded observations of the natural world to the latest psychological literature, there is a consistent, cross-cultural, deeply ingrained sensitivity to the interruption of expected rhythms, the sudden silence in a forest that signals a predator, the pause in a conversation that signals danger, the moment the wind drops before the storm. Stillness, in the world our brains evolved to navigate, was not neutral. Stillness was a warning. Stillness meant that something had changed, and you needed to find out what before it found out about you. We built clocks thousands of years after that reflex was wired into us. And so when a clock stops, we do not experience a mechanical failure. We experience, briefly and below the threshold of language, the ancient signal that the forest has gone quiet. Consider what this means. The same neural architecture that kept your ancestors alive on a savanna, that oriented their bodies toward movement in their peripheral vision, that made their hearts accelerate when the usual sound stopped. That same architecture is now spending its afternoons noticing that the kitchen clock needs a new battery. Evolution does not know what year it is. It does not know what a clock is. It only knows that regular rhythms mean safety, and silence means something has changed, and you should probably look up. But there is something underneath even this. Something that the neuroscience gestures toward but does not quite say. If your brain's experience of the present moment is actually a construction, a prediction filled in and smoothed over and edited before it reaches your conscious awareness, then in what sense do you? The chronostasis illusion reveals that what you experience as now is, in the most literal possible sense, the recent past. Your brain is always catching up, always stitching together a version of events that is already over by the time you perceive it. You are, every moment of every day, living approximately a third of a second behind the universe. A third of a second does not sound like much, but consider, you have never once in your entire life perceived the actual present moment. Every thought you have had, every sensation you have felt, every face you have loved, and every sky you have watched turn dark, all of it arrived late. All of it was processed, edited, filled in, smoothed over, and delivered to your consciousness slightly after it happened. You are always watching a recording. You are always looking at a clock that has, in some infinitesimally small way, already stopped. And here is the thing. Here is the thing that stops you. If you let it, the universe, as far as we can tell, does not experience time at all. At the level of fundamental physics, the equations that describe reality are time symmetric. They work equally well forwards and backwards. The distinction between past and future, between the clock that runs and the clock that stops, between the moment before and the moment after, these are not features of the universe. They are features of us. They are the shape of our particular kind of consciousness, pressed against the indifferent surface of what actually exists. We notice the stopped clock because we are the only things in the universe that notice anything at all. And that is either the most beautiful fact you have ever heard, or the loneliest, and I genuinely cannot decide which. There is a clock somewhere in your home, or your office, or somewhere on your body right now, and it is running, and you are not thinking about it. But you are thinking about it now. Now ist kann siegen, and the strange thing, the thing worth sitting with, is that your noticing of it has not changed what it is doing. It was always ticking. You were always not listening. The clock did not need your attention to do its work, and the universe did not need your attention to do its work. And the 100,000 years of evolution that wired you to notice when things stopped did not consult you about whether any of this was a reasonable arrangement. You were built by a process that does not exist anymore, to survive a world that no longer exists. Using a sense of time that your own brain can demonstrate is a controlled hallucination. And here you are, noticing a clock, feeling something. Maybe the stopped clock is not announcing a failure. Maybe it is asking a question. Morning, welcome to you. Can it answer you? Asugani, one. Not, what time is it? It has given up on that. But something quieter. Something that sounds, if you listen carefully, a lot like, what does it mean that you noticed? I don't know the answer. But the fact that you're asking it right now, in the brief and improbable window of time during which something in the universe is capable of asking anything at all, that seems like it might be the point.